I'm a boss chick, yeah, I'm a boss lady. I be calling shots, I be getting money. I'm a boss chick, yeah, I'm a boss lady. I be calling shots, I be getting money.
What's going on, people? The I Look Good Naked podcast listeners and viewers. Today we're just listening. But how are you doing? This is Cass Seegers Beatles, and normally I am with Terry J. Vaughn, but Terry J. Vaughn is acting, doing one of the things that she does best. She's in Houston this week, and so I am here today with our amazing producer, Melissa Young.
Hi, everybody. Yay!
Thank you, Melissa, for hanging out with me today so that I don't have to talk by myself.
Good to be here on the other side.
On the other side.
Yes.
How are you doing?
I am amazing.
Oh, that's good. Amazing is a good word. Amazing is a good word. I feel good. I went running this morning with my family, or walking/running with my family. And it was good. It was good. Anthony ran past us, but Grandma went with us, and she walked, and in Brooklyn. So it was good. It was a good exercise day.
That sounds like a good family outing.
Today, yes. And the weather's good. It's changing. So it was a little cool, which is good. I'm ready for the fall to kind of start coming in. Although it's still hot and muggy, but I'm ready. I'm ready for the fall.
I think Carter and I will hit the belt line and get our exercise in a little later.
Yeah. Got to get your exercise in. Today we're going to talk about some fun stuff. I don't even know if it's fun, actually, now that I think about it. It actually, for some people, it may be a little daunting, maybe morbid, but it's necessary. So today is going to be a necessary educational podcast. But before we get to that, I'm going to do two things in one. We usually have our Smith family moment, but I'm actually going to do a quote. And the quote today is actually from Jada Pinkett Smith. So it's my Smith family moment. As some of you know, we love the Smith family.
Yes.
And it's also the quote of the day. So my quote is, "It's not about what you tell your children, but how you show them how to live life." One more time. It's not about what you tell your children, but how you show them how to live life. And I just think it's important.
I love that.
I really like that quote.
Yeah.
Because we tell our kids a lot of stuff.
We do.
You know, don't do this, don't cuss, don't smoke, don't do it, go live, go be creative, go to this, but then we're not doing those things.
And they listen to none of what we say and everything of what we do. They watch us, they do exactly what we do.
Yep.
And they say exactly what we say.
Yep.
And I think that is a really, really, really good quote because it's so true.
Yeah, it's so true. So, parents, live the life you expect your kids to live instead of just telling them. And I know a lot of times as parents we're like, well, don't do what I do what I say, and go out in the world and do better. But like you said, they don't. They are little clones and robots. And, it's unfortunate. You can tell your son, don't hit women, don't do this. But if he sees you as a father being abusive, he will do it. He's same with the mom. If you see your mom and she's saying, go live, go this, that, but she's not working, or she's just whatever, just not being those things that she says, guaranteed the kids that will even grow up hating it will still do it. It's like I've met so many people that have said, man, I am just like my parents. Like what I fought so hard to run away from, I ended up just doing, because programming is real, and so much of that is programmed between the ages of like 4 and 10.
Yep.
And that's where all of the wiring sets in our little computer brains, and it takes work to deprogram those things. So
I think that's true. You know what? That makes me think. So, and Cass, I've talked to you about this before. I'm trying really hard to not be a sensitive parent, but my son has a friend that he plays with, and I was telling you that the kid has been really, really, just not nice, and it's getting more and more regular. And he adores this kid, and I don't want to like pull him away from this kid and say, oh, you can't play with this kid anymore. Like we're not going to have play dates. But I don't know really what to do with it. Do I just separate him and say, hey, we're not going to play with this kid anymore? If I've mentioned it, because I don't want him thinking that he has to accept abuse just to have a friend. That's my thing.
Right.
And it is
Yeah, I don't
becoming that.
know. Yeah, but I don't know if you have to make him make that decision. I think
Yeah.
more so
Then
than
I make it for him.
than you make it for him. You have to say, do you have fun? Is this something that you like? And then kind of make him realize like this isn't acceptable. I have a problem with it, but you have to have a problem with it, because again, at the end of the day, we get in situations with friendships and relationships. And my mother hasn't always liked my friends or my boyfriends or whatever. But the older you get, we have to recognize it and know that it's not something acceptable for us.
Right.
So I think you have to start that behavior
Okay.
early. But you going to our quote saying, I don't accept this. This is not acceptable behavior for mommy. This is not acceptable behavior for me. So I choose not to do it, but I would love for you to make that decision on your own. Because he has to recognize it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He has to recognize it. Because if not, now you're just taking something else away. And
Right. And then going back full
get it.
circle to your quote, which is why I brought it up, is because I've known the kid for years, and this behavior isn't something that's been there. So is it a thing where behavior like that, the bullying and the just being mean, is it a reflection of something that a child is seeing at home?
I wonder. I think so. But I mean, again, I don't know this situation, but I think it's learned. These are learned behaviors. Kids come into the world pure and innocent. They learn racism. They learn bullying. They see it and they pick it up. And either they see the bully getting the attention, whether negative or positive, and they're like, ooh, I want that power. I want that. I want to be able to affect people like that. So I think that is where, it has to come from somewhere. So it could be from school. It may not be from home. I mean, it could be from a myriad of places, depending on where the child goes.
Yeah.
But I definitely think it is a learned behavior. But again, we have to be mindful as adults, not just parents, but as adults, as
what we do,
as family, what we do around younger generations, because they are learning from us. And unfortunately, just where we are in the universe and politically, it was a lot of bad things are being learned.
It's true.
Yeah.
Great quote. I say all that to say great quote.
Yeah. So who is your woman? Who is our woman for the day? Who are we talking about for our woman for the day?
Is U.S. Senator Kamala Harris. And I think is it pronounced Kamala or Kamala?
I thought it was Kamala.
Kamala Harris. I think you're right.
Yeah, Kamala. Yeah, it is Kamala, because I love the phonetic.
I love her middle name. Kamala Devi.
Devi?
Yes. Debbie
She's so beautiful. She's such a pretty woman. Terry's going to be happy. She was born in Oakland. So, Terry will be very happy to know that we are repping her hometown in a way today.
Yes.
Not really. She's not Oakland. She's the Bay. She's San Francisco, but it's still out there. So,
right. Okay. So, Kamala Devi Harris is an American attorney and politician who is the junior United States Senator from California, serving since 2017. She's a member of the Democratic Party. She previously served as the 32nd Attorney General of California from 2011 to 2017. It says she was born in Oakland, California. Harris is a graduate of Howard University, HU, and University of California, Hastings. In the 1990s, Harris worked in the San Francisco District Attorney's Office and the city's attorney's office. In 2004, she was elected District Attorney of San Francisco. She was elected California's Attorney General in 2010 and reelected in 2014. On November the 8th, she defeated Loretta Sanchez in the 2016 Senate election to succeed outgoing Senator Barbara Boxer, becoming California's third female U.S. Senator and the first of Jamaican or Indian descent. That is Kamala Harris, Senator Kamala Harris. And there is a lot of political talk that she may make a run for president of the United States at some point. And if she does, she will have my full support.
Yeah, very good. Oh, she's amazing. I mean, and I know her resume can go on and on and on.
Yes,
she's done amazing things in Oakland, in California. So go look her up. Go get some more information. And I hope she does run. That'll be. Yeah. And I hope it's a legitimate run. You know what I mean? She doesn't just run, but it's a legitimate. Whoever she'll be running against at that term.
Yes.
Yeah.
She has a passion for one of the things that I like about her that she's noted about. She has a passion for criminal justice reform, which is something that is very needed and it's kind of a hot button issue, but she really has a passion for it, even in her past and early career. It's not something that,
good.
that she just jumped on to as a senator. It's something that she's always championed since she first came into politics. And I really like that about her. And just her frankness, just her no nonsenseness in the Senate. She, stands her ground. She does not, let this, what can at times be an all male, world, push her around. If you you hear her in any of the Senate hearings, which I've watched a few of, she's no nonsense. She cuts to the chase. She doesn't tolerate the nonsense. She doesn't tolerate the disrespect. I like that about her. She's strong.
Right. Yeah. I know I saw another article about her, just about her saying that the officers out there in San Francisco were being, too deliberate just with prosecution with these murder suspects.
Yep.
Like they were just, and she's tightening loopholes in the system. So yeah. She's doing a lot of things. And I think, again, what she stands for, especially criminal justice reform, is something we need on a federal level. So,
yes, absolutely.
So hopefully she will run. Hey, we'll see.
A little applause for her.
She looks a little presidential-like.
She does, doesn't she? Yeah. Excellent.
Oh, man. Well, what happened in entertainment? Oh, my God. We had a crazy entertainment week last week. We lost 2 people, which kind of goes into our topic for the day. But, Senator John McCain, he went on to glory, transitioned. But the big one was Aretha Franklin. Not to say one was bigger than the other. They both made very big impacts. But the Queen of Soul has gone on, and they have sent her away in an 8-hour funeral situation with singers and pastors and the whole 9 yards. I don't know about 8 hours.
I love Aretha.
I do too.
But 8 hours, people, come on.
Whitney's was what, 4? Whitney's was long too. Whitney's was long, but that to me, 4 is the max.
That's a long homegoing service.
Time to be in church. I mean, that's not including the repast. That's not including we're going down to the cemetery. No. That's just 8 hours in a show. That's like when I used to produce award shows. Yes. And they would be all day. We would set up, break down. Award shows, anybody out there who's ever gone and they've seen award shows on television, it's only 2 hours televised, but it's a long day. It's like an 8-hour day between everything that has to happen. And if you ever go to one and you had to sit at one, that it's a long show.
Yep.
That I can't imagine. I mean, I'm sure it was an amazing concert. I didn't really look and see, but I know Jennifer Hudson performed and Fantasia and I hate to even say performed because she didn't say performed at a funeral. I don't know. They celebrated her life through song.
Yeah, but at 8 hours, at some point, it gets to be performing.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Look, I love Aretha, but at an 8-hour funeral, I'd have to do that finger up in the air church. Excuse me,
Yeah.
Walk out with your finger up in the air. Like, excuse me.
And I'm sure it went maybe fast. I don't know. I did not attend. Maybe someone who did attend the funeral will send a comment. Y'all comment and let us know how that worked for you guys. And if you stayed the whole time. But she did go home, and she was an amazing talent, as everybody knows, and an amazing woman. I was going back and looking at some of the pictures just through her history and just people and the influence and just stuff. And I'm like, okay, Aretha. Somebody in her family had the last name of Seegers. They read it on the at the thing, and my mother-in-law called me. She was like, "Are y'all related to Aretha?" I was like, "Oh no, I need to go to ancestry.com."
Let me ask you this, because and the little parts that I did see. How do you feel about speakers at a funeral hijacking the funeral to make political points? How do you feel about that?
Oh, I don't know, because they did say that her funeral was very politicized.
Yeah, a lot of the speakers got up and had negative things, to say about the current resident in office.
I don't think it's appropriate. Well, they said that not her funeral was politicized, but that John McCain's funeral was. I don't think it's the time and place for it.
I don't either.
We're there to celebrate the deceased.
Exactly. I think it was a comment, and it, for some reason, I don't know of all of the celebrities that were there. I know Bill Clinton was there and quite a few others, but it was interesting because they said, I think it was either the Reverend Al Sharpton or Jesse Jackson. It was one of those two because I remember the name.
Which that's to be expected.
Right.
Because they don't separate. I mean, I hate to say it, but they don't really separate politics from anything that they do.
No, from anything that they do. That is so true. But one of them said something to the effect that they didn't like that Trump had said that Aretha had worked for him at some point, which that pissed me off too, because he had never worked for you. You enjoyed what she does. Even if she came to the White House and sang, you were blessed that she came to the White House and sang it. Anything that you did. So this is the way that he referred to it, and they didn't like it, and they brought it up. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's still, she was in context, but still, yeah. Right. I don't know. After 8 hours, you're delirious. I get up there and say anything. I'm not saying what I would get up there and do if I had to speak. And if I'm not in that first 2 hours of speakers, then it's a wrap for me.
It's a wrap. When it's my turn to get up, I might have forgotten what I'm there for.
I definitely would have forgotten what I was there for. I would have. I don't want that kind of funeral. I mean, not that any of my friends would ever give me an 8-hour funeral anyway. But if I were famous, if by the time I die, I'm a famous person, I definitely would not want.
I do it. I'd be up there, and in our final and 8th hour, I'd just like to say one more word about Cass.
I would be mad with y'all. I would be mad. I went to this homegoing celebration of this particular actor once, and it was the best one I've ever been to. And it wasn't a service. It was literally everybody who knew her. Her name was Deborah, and she had the wittiest personality and just funny and great. And they all just got up and they just told their favorite Deborah story. And I was like, that's what I want.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I want. I'm like, I am copying her funeral process, and I want that. I just want everybody to get up, tell their favorite Cass story. Y'all laugh, y'all eat, y'all go home. And that's
a great celebration.
That's it. I don't think I even want a eulogy, or whatever. The pastor has to come up there and do the service with the sermon and the Bible. I don't want that.
And,
I don't want
that brings us to, you got to write that down. You got to write down what you want.
Because I have not written that down. I've told people, and now it's recorded on the podcast, but I do. But that definitely brings us to our subject for the day. And we are going to be right back, and we're going to talk about, well, it's kind of a broad thing, breaking generational curses or breaking generational traditions. Because some of our old heads, they needed to do better. And so we need to do better now as the new generation. And we'll be right back.
I'm a boss chick, yeah, I'm a boss lady. I be calling shots, I be getting money. I'm a boss chick, yeah, I'm a boss lady. I be calling shots, I be getting money.
Oh, you guys are back, and we are back, and you are listening to I Look Good Naked podcast with Cass, and today Melissa instead of Terry. Terry, we miss you.
We miss you, Terry.
But we are carrying on without you because that's what has to be done, which leads us on to our next carrying on without people.
Carrying on.
Okay, so that leads us to our segment and topic for the day. We are talking about breaking some bad traditions. Like we talked about earlier with our quote, do, show, lead by example. But some of the old heads, they have some bad traditions. So we lost Aretha Franklin this week, which now last week is what it'll be. And I just found out she didn't have a will. Now,
isn't that crazy?
She didn't have a will. Prince didn't have a will. I don't know if his was for religious reasons. I think Michael might have had a will, but it doesn't matter because a lot of people don't have wills. Sure. And I don't know what that's about, but we have got to, new generation, new kids, we have got to start preparing for whatever that next transition is going to be.
That's true.
Just because your parents didn't have a will, just because your grandpa or grandma, we have had so many families break up, stop talking, fight over the fact that who gets Big Mama's house, who gets Big Mama's car, who gets Granddaddy's boat or whatever the case, land. We have land. And what happens is when you have this land and you don't have a will and nobody gets the land and nobody claims the land, or people don't know what's the taxes due on the land goes to the state.
Goes to the state.
and you lose everything.
You
We
lose
have got to
everything.
start preparing.
Yeah.
So that's kind of
Okay.
what I want to talk about today. Like, why don't we do that? Why don't we prepare for the next phase?
I don't know. I actually think that it is part superstition and part a lack of understanding and the knowledge of what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Because like there's two things. If you don't have life insurance if you are wealthy. There's no need for it because you are, investing money and you got, trust accounts set up for your kids in the case of your demise.
But you know what I have learned? See, the whole life insurance thing is a hustle because a lot of times people are wealthy. They have life insurance policies for their kids.
That's
they
true.
set them up. They set up $1 million policies.
Yes.
They pay on it for their kids.
Yes.
And then when they die, their kids get $1 million.
Yes.
And they use that. And now a lot of Jewish families, a lot of Jewish communities.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's a buildup.
It's a buildup. It's like, yeah, you've been paying on it and paying on it. Yes, your whole life. But when you die, your kids now have this thing to start whatever they want to start.
It's true.
And so it just, we need to have life insurance.
We do need to have life insurance.
Not just, go ahead.
And I think the main thing is that a will or designating what happens to what you have when you are gone, be it a life insurance policy or monies from a life insurance policy or a house or land, something you've worked all of your life and paid for, designating where it will go and who it goes to literally establishes a form of generational wealth, whether it's an extreme amount of wealth or a small amount. So many of us don't understand that that's how generational wealth has passed us, like left us here. Like I can't tell you how many friends that I have that are not from the non-black, that are from the non-black community. That are like, well, yeah, my grandpa died and he passed. He had a policy, left it to me, and it was $250,000.
Yeah.
And I bought my first house.
Absolutely.
And we don't understand that that's a way of passing down something, an ability to do better than I did while I was here.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But I've heard I've heard many older blacks and even younger blacks, they think that getting an insurance policy or having a will submits their death. That, I don't want to talk about that.
That's what I mean about that whole generational mindset, like that cloud of death. Guess what, everybody? We're all going to die. We are going to die, whether it's accidentally, whether it's in your sleep, whether somebody chops you up randomly, or you get in a car accident. We pray it's not tragic, but we're going to die. People die every day. You will die. And it's very unfair to leave your mess with your family. It's very unfair. You're not even thinking about it. You've got 4 or 5 kids and you leave all your debt, you leave all of your mess. And not to say, obviously you may have debt, but if you have a house that's paid for, if you have a savings account. I mean, there are people who have savings accounts and the kids don't even know it. The bank just keeps that money because nobody knows. Nobody even knew that mama had, $20 or $30 or $40,000 in the same account because that was just her little money. The banker keeps the money and nobody ever knows. That's right. So we just have to do better with telling our families. My parents, they started a long time ago. They were like, this is our little box. It's in our closet. If one of us die, if both of us die, everything's in here. That's insurance policies, who gets the house, like all of that. They were like, you and your brother get the house. We don't want to hear any fighting. We don't care how you guys split it up. We don't care if you sell it. We don't care if you keep it. We don't care, but it's to both of you guys. And then my brother and I have talked about it. I'm like, well, you're there with them. You just decide what you want to do with the house. Like, I would never say, well, we're just going to keep the house, but I'm not even there to manage it. Now he's there to manage it. We just have to be smarter with that transition. You live your life. You live this entire life to try to have something. You can't take it with you. So why not prepare for the next generation, especially if that's what we say we're always doing, working for our kids, doing this for our families. Then when you leave, you want them to be better, not a mess.
Exactly. Not a mess. Not a mess. I mean, and I understand, like, because I did come from, I think at some points all of us did on at least one side of our family, but I did come from that mentality of like, country folk that have these,
from the South too. You're from what? South Carolina.
South Carolina. And they have this, this is view about that I can do that later. We don't need that and this, and some people, complain about, the cost of having some type of policy in place. And, like what my dad did is, who's now 80, is, he went ahead and paid for all of his funeral stuff because he just didn't want to leave that
My
on,
mom and dad
his
too.
kids. I have a will. As soon as I had Carter, I can't say that I had a will before Carter because I didn't really have anything, guitars here and there, that sort of thing. And I told my sisters, hey, anything happen, get my guitars and give them to this nephew, and get this keyboard and give it to
Funny.
But over time, I've amassed some film equipment that has value, and when I had Carter, I took out a $500,000 insurance policy and put it in a trust fund for him, just because if there's anything that happens, I want to know that he's okay. I designated a person of care in the state of Georgia. Of course, his father, gets first rights. But if anything happens, the world is crazy.
The world is crazy.
Yeah, I designated a first person and a second person in the event that the first person isn't available and has a demise. I want to know that somebody that knows me and loves me will care for my child and try and give him the future that I'd hope that he would have.
Right.
In the event that something, were to happen. And I wanted him to, not have a life of struggle financially because I couldn't be here to provide for him until he was old enough to provide for himself. So I did that. I think it's important. The one thing that I do need to do is the aspect that you and I were talking about, the passwords, getting that situated to where people know how to get into my phone, get into my accounts, where my 401k and all of that stuff they need to know that, because all of that stuff has beneficiaries as well. And I've designated the beneficiaries on that stuff.
And some people don't even have that. How many times do we see people all doing a crowdfund or a GoFundMe
just crazy
to bury someone? Now it's different if you're doing it because, the whole family was taken out in an accident and you want to have something for the kids or something like that. But we are raising money just to do a standard funeral.
Yes. That's crazy, but it's
or cremation or what have you. So a will is very important. When I started doing my books, and that was when I was like, okay, I need to get a will because, and then I had to change it once I had kids because I originally left it for my brother. So I was like, oh, okay, it would be like me to blow up and all my books blow up after I died. Then it's like, where's that money gonna go? They ain't blown up while I'm living, but of course they will blow up as soon as I close my eyes. And now there's millions sitting around. Like somebody needs to put in those hours I belabored over those words. So that's what prompted me to do it. But I'm going to go through the list, because I don't want to, this is really, I want to educate, but just so people are aware, there are certain things. Your last will and testament, that is definitely something. Get you a lawyer. It's not that expensive. No. And even if you don't own a lot of property, it doesn't matter if you own things. Again, guardianship of your property, your children, like you said, who's going to keep your child? If you are a single parent, do you want your mother or do you want the father to have your child? Mm-hmm. There's pros and cons. There are people who are fighting over kids all day long. So it's a will is very important, especially if you have children. And I think you can even get one online. I'm sure you can do the whole process online. I'm sure you can. I could be wrong because maybe you have to have ID or show ID, but I feel like you can get everything online. But people, I cannot stress it enough. Go get a will. That's the first thing. Second thing is outline your memorial service. I mean, for all we know, Aretha could have said, I want my funeral to be 8 hours, no less, no less than 8 hours. And that could have been part of her outline. But, like I was sharing earlier, I was like, I want my service to be just a party with just everyone telling stories and jokes of how I brought joy into their life. Just one story after the next. I don't want a big old sermon. I don't want any of those things. I just want good music and that's it. And then we go eat. That's it. It can be in a church. It cannot be in a church. I don't really care. But nothing formal because that's just never been my style anyway. Yeah, me either. And I've always wanted to bring joy in people's lives and make them smile. And I think that, at the end, that's how I want people to remember me. Like I want them to all be laughing. So, but you got to outline that thing. You have to tell people, do you want to be cremated? Do you want to be buried? Because that's another thing. Sometimes people who pass and their parents are older and they just may not believe in cremation, but then you told your husband you wanted to be cremated. Now they're arguing and fighting over it. So outline that funeral, that service, and write it down.
Write it down.
Put it in this folder, in this box that will have your will. It will have your outline. It will have what happens if you fall ill or you get incapacitated or like you're in a coma or what happens then. You have to designate a power of attorney.
That's right.
Power of attorney is a person who can attend to the financial and legal matters in case you fall ill. Your power of attorney could be your spouse. It could be your parents. It could be your child if your child is old enough. I think you have to be 18. But that's another thing that's very, very important because, again, people fight over, the fact that maybe you're brain dead and you're in the hospital, and then what?
Right.
Or if you get ill and someone has to take care of you, who's going to take care of you?
Who's going to
take care of you? Do you want to be put in a home? Sometimes that isn't up to the person because sometimes the powers that be that are left, they can't keep you or what have you, or can't take care of you. But it's very important that you state what happens if you're ill.
That's right. And then also another element that I'm kind of on the fence about just because of the rising cost of it. But if you're able to do it, before you get too old where you can't qualify, maybe even look into long-term insurance.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't seem like it, but
it's very costly.
It is very costly. Those of us that are taking care of ourselves, though, are living longer. And, and it's the tiniest thing that could wipe our savings out, like, oh, well, I think I may have to do, I can't stay in my home, but I may have to go to an assisted living place. It's like $92,000 a year for an assisted living place.
My aunt is in an assisted living place, and it is very
unbelievable.
Expensive. It's very expensive.
And so, and long-term insurance used to be, reasonable, but there used to be more companies that offer it. And I read recently that there are only like 3 or 4 companies now in the country that are offering long-term insurance. And so the cost of the insurance is rising as well. So you could get a decent policy for about $1,500 a year. But now it's somewhere between $2,600 and $3,000 a year. But after 60 last year, I think it was a number, and don't ask me why I know. I was reading some random article just the other day about it, but like 63% of the people that applied for long-term insurance that were age 60 were declined.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, it's like, get it early. And I was thinking, if I do.
know that's so crazy. You're getting it early and you're paying for it. That's the only thing I hate about the insurance.
You're paying for it.
Again, you're paying for things, but that's insurance, like health insurance. You're paying for something. Yes. It's a just in case. But it's a very important just in case.
It is a very important just in case. Yeah. And what I've decided to do is get them all now, but with the intention of not needing them later. So in other words, on my insurance, I have term life insurance. So my insurance is I've got a 20-year term. I've got 20 years to make my millions, and put my money back so that I've got a certain amount of money set aside over here for retirement in case I have to, if I need someone to come into the home to help me.
That's true. A lot of artists don't even have health insurance. So that's a whole nother thing. We're not even going to talk about that. But life insurance is a little cheaper than health insurance. So, so that's one thing. So we've got that. Then also the number 4 on the list is prepare a living will, designate a medical power of attorney. So a living will outlines your wishes for medical care. Like in case you're in an accident and you're in the hospital and you can't speak for yourself, you need to let them know if you want to be resuscitated, if you want to be kept on a life support machine. People fight over that. People don't want to pull the plug, but then people say all the time, I don't want to be stuck in a coma. I don't want to be a vegetable, but you didn't tell anybody. And then the people that are still living have a hard time letting you go.
That's true.
So if you don't have it on a piece of paper, who knows what will happen?
Yeah. And be to the point, be descriptive, be very specific. I want to be resuscitated
one time
or 2 times or 3 times. But if I've flatlined and I've been flatlined for 3 minutes, do not resuscitate me.
Right.
Do
I'm
not put
gone.
me on a machine. I'm gone. Like, you have to be really specific, you know, because you don't want someone, you know, because there's always at least one in a family who's like power hungry. Well, she didn't want to be
Right.
resuscitated, and the one they only want to try resuscitate you one time, and then God forbid if your spirit is lingering around saying, no, pump once more, I'm not there, I'm in limbo, you know.
No, Auntie is already like, she's gone.
She's gone.
Let's have a funeral. I got my hat picked out. Let go. Yeah.
Oh,
Leave her. Let it be. Let
I
it be.
I'll admit, I haven't done that part. When you do a will with an attorney, they give you all of those documents together.
Yeah.
And she gave me the living will, and I started filling it out, and I got emotional. I couldn't, you know.
And that's why people don't want to do it, because
Yeah,
they're
and
just
so,
it makes you really realize or come to terms with the fact that
mhm,
this is finite.
yes,
This time that we are living in this moment, and although we say it all the time, life is short,
yeah,
but then when you really kind of put a date on it, like,
yeah,
okay, it's so short that this is what's going to happen when it's
right.
over. People don't want to start planning for that.
Nope. And that part of my will has been empty for a year, and I did tell her I would, you know, send those papers back to her. She's like, you know, everything else is cemented and you've signed it. She said, but you do need to handle the living will. And it's been tough, but I'm going to, after this podcast, I am going to put my living will in place because it is
Good.
necessary.
It
It's
is
very
necessary.
necessary.
All right, we're up to number 5. Number 5 is organize your finances, life insurance, bills, debts, and everything else. Organize it, put it in a digital file, let people know where your money is, what's due, if the house is paid off, if there's a second mortgage on a house. That's happened. I've heard a few times where people thought their parents' houses were paid off and they didn't know that their parents had pulled a second mortgage because you went to college or they needed whatever on the house, and you inherit this house, and then all of a sudden now you've got this bill and you're like, where'd this come from? Mama's house has been paid off since 91. Nope,
Right.
no, it hasn't. And now the parents don't even, the kids don't know, and now you've left this bill. And then they have to sell the house or whatever the case may be. So have it all organized, have it all written down, let people know where your money is. It's okay. It's okay, guys, to let people know where your money is or where your money isn't. It's not like you're sharing this early. You're just saying, hey, here's an envelope with all of my information, how much money I have, the accounts I have, the credit cards I have. And that's a living document. You know, it's constantly being updated, but at least it's something. It starts with something. According to the National Association of Unclaimed Property, there's 32.9 billion assets that are currently unclaimed because the state took them because the family just didn't know. 32.9 billion currently unclaimed assets. Yep, that could be some of y'all's money out there.
It is.
But you have to write it up. You have to write all of that up with an estate planner, organize your bills. So that was number 5? That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. Because again, the old heads did not talk. They didn't talk about it. Nobody knew. They just did not let the kids know, or they didn't let their kids know, and they didn't let their kids know. And, you know, now you've got grandkids that, you know, grandparents had land. And y'all over here struggling. Y'all don't have anything, but nobody knew that Papa had land.
Right. Just tell somebody. You got to put it down. If you're going to leave all your money to your 6 puppies, fine. Write it down that all your puppies are going to get your money. If you want all your cats to live in the house, write it down.
Right. Anything.
Tell somebody.
You want to give all your money to a charity. And you don't have to be a billionaire. People think you have to be millionaires, you know, like the Bill Gates of the world. Like, you don't have to be that. I don't care if it's $10,000 and you die and you have $10,000 in your account. If you have $5,000 in your account, you don't want the state to get that $5,000. You want that $5,000 to pay off some bills or some debt. Because what you don't want is the bill collectors calling your kids after you die.
Because they will. They will.
Us this money, and now we're coming for it. And they were relentless. So just out of respect, man, organize your stuff, let the people know.
That's right.
Was that number 5? Yes. Number 6 is secure your digital life, your passwords.
Yeah, that's what
all of that information. Let people know how to get in. That's very important for me because, you know, I make a living off of writing. So everything is in my computer. Everything's in my laptop. I've got hard drives. I've got this. if something were to happen to me, you guys just be like, where's that script? We don't know where that script is. God, we're about to shoot. What was the last version of that script? I have not done that. I've got to organize my digital life.
Me too.
That is very, very, very important. All your passwords for Google and Instagram and Facebook and all of this, that, and the other. I know it
sounds daunting.
We got people leaving crazy stuff on our site. All you can do is delete it and shut it down. Email passwords in case you need to let people know if someone passes away and they've got an email list, and people, even the passwords for your phone. Like your phone, you can't even get in people's phones to say, hey, let me call somebody and let them know. Passwords.
It's true.
Leave that somewhere.
That stuff is so important.
Yeah. And then just set up a master file. So that's kind of it. And then put all of that in a folder of some sort and leave it in your house. Like have it together with your driver's, a copy of your driver's license or military records, because all of those things, your spouse and or kids or mother and father or whoever your power of attorney is, will need that information. They will need it even if you go into a home and you've got money in an account and now you're so old, your power of attorney is going to have your marriage license, or if you've been married and if that person's deceased, they're going to have military records. If you're a military person and you get military, veteran compensation. It's not called veteran compensation, but you get a check from the vets. That money is going to keep coming until they find out that you're dead. That has to go somewhere. So all of that, your marriage license, your divorce, your adoption papers, Social Security, all of that, make copies of everything, put it in a master file along with this other information and your will. And then you're preparing for what is going to happen, the inevitable. And it's not morose, it's not morbid, it's not terrible. It's really important, and it's a fact of life. And if we look at life like a celebration and we enjoy each moment and we live that life, you definitely don't want to burden your family members with things that were something you could have done in 1 week. If you could have taken care of all of this in 1 week, and it will save years of burden for your family members that you leave behind, it's important. It's kind, it's respectful. Just do it. So that's kind of what I have to say. Melissa is running around. She is quiet on this subject. I don't know, maybe she's just gotten really emotional and sad about all of this
no.
death talk.
I am here.
No, I know. So that's just important.
It did make me sad though.
Don't be sad.
We're gonna
die.
Which is what the problem is in our community. We get sad and then we don't want to do this stuff, and we have to do it.
Right.
But I can get sad because I've done most of it. I just have 2 things to do on your list.
Okay, good. All right, everybody write that list down. This was we didn't laugh a lot on this on this podcast. And I really like to laugh and I like to be funny, but this podcast, unfortunately, we did not laugh a lot. But I feel good because I feel like it was an important podcast.
Yes. Oh, one thing that might be a little funny.
Oh, okay. What?
So I thought about it because, it's just me and Carter.
Yes.
And I thought about this the other day. He knows how to get into my phone.
Mm-hmm.
He knows the numbers, right?
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes it won't let you get to that. It wants you to do your thumbprint.
Right.
And I thought about it. I was like, if he can't get into my phone and something happens and he needs to dial 911, I don't have a home phone. Hardly anyone has home phones.
Yes,
anymore.
but I think you can do 911 without your thumbprint.
Oh, that's good to know.
I don't know. I know you can do it without the lock, without the password.
Well, what I decided to do is I found out you can have more than one thumbprint. So I'm setting him up on my thumbprint.
Oh, okay.
Because everything else is restricted anyway. So he can't order games and everything, which he's really trying to do right now. Like he tried to charge $59 something to my iTunes account. So
crazy.
But yeah, I thought about that. I was like, what happens if
you
pass
out or something happens to you? Yeah. That would be very...
On a side note, I love my side notes.
Yeah, that's good. No, that's good. Prepare your children for, something, especially if it's just the 2 of you guys there. So that's very important. So again, this is about a little bit of transition, but it's really about celebrating life. The whole episode was really about celebrating life and living life to your fullest.
Yes.
And we are celebrating Aretha's life. We did that this week with our 8-hour service. And prayerfully, her family won't go into such a tizzy because she did not have a will. But we are trying to prepare you for your family. So you make sure you don't burden yours with that. I hope you guys have an amazing week and live life. You can find me at Cass Seegers. You can find Terry J. Vaughn at Terry J. Vaughn. That's on Facebook. That's on Instagram. And that's on Twitter. You can find the podcast at ILGN Podcast. And you can find the podcast on our website, ilookgoodnakedpodcast.com. Melissa, where can we find you?
You can find me at Melissa Young on Facebook and Twitter, and you can find me at Freckled1 on Instagram because I'm freckled.
Because you are freckled. Anyway, guys, you have an amazing week, and we are out.
I'm a boss chick, yeah, I'm a boss lady. I be calling shots, I be getting money. I'm a boss chick, yeah, I'm a boss lady. I be calling shots, I be getting money.